Hey everyone, and welcome back. Our next guest is a New York native actress and executive producer, whom, under her new production company, Anima Azul Productions, is getting a lot of praise for their first major production. Nominated for Best Drama at the Cannes Short Film Festival and winner of the New York Dominican Film Festival Apple Award, Metamorphosis tells the story of how mental health is talked about in the Latinx community. In the story of Metamorphosis, Mariela realizes she's had enough of her toxic marriage to David, and she decides to take matters into her own hands. And joining us to share more is the star and executive producer of Metamorphosis, Candy Santana. Hello and welcome.
Hi, oh my goodness, I'm so happy to be here. So nice to see you.
Congratulations.
Thank you, thank you, thank
I
you.
mean, and congratulations is in order on numerous bases, right? Because there's the production company, there's you starring in this short film, and then all this acknowledgement and an award that you've already won. Oh my goodness, Candy, te botaste.
Hi, Gracia. We're so happy. We just shot this in August of this year in the Dominican Republic. Cast, crew, everything was shot there. So we're so happy to be starting the festival circuit with all of this excitement.
And so let's talk about the story itself. And I got to say, you were really, really excellent in it. And I just wondered where, I guess, where you were pulling from. Is it something that you've witnessed, you've experienced? Let's give everybody a little bit without giving them too much.
Okay. So the idea for the story came to me during the pandemic when we saw that there was a rise in suicide and the conversation about mental health and how people were struggling with their mental health. So what we noticed during the pandemic was that unfortunately, when people would take their life, a lot of people would be surprised about it. And everyone would say, "Oh, I saw them the other day. They were fine. They seem happy." And of course, then the next thing is let's go to their social media, look at their perfect life, and you have a list of reasons why you thought the person was fine. But what I really wanted to do was raise awareness that people that are suffering with mental health struggles or depression, it doesn't really look the way that we've been raised to believe, that you're just sleeping in a bed depressed all the time. People are functioning, they look fine, they do give signs. And that's what this film is about. You see subtle signs from my character that she's struggling. So it's about raising awareness and how can we have the conversation moving forward in the Latino community. You know, our community, that it's so easy for us to say, oh, you're just being
Right.
dramatic. Oh, it's not that serious. Brushing off things. So I really want to help change that.
Yeah, and the reason I'm glad we're having this conversation. I love having mental health awareness conversations, and the style in which you execute it, right? It was kind of apparent that there was something off with this character, but what I found really, I guess, intriguing was the fact that within the Latino community, there is this disregard for when a person doesn't want to talk. It's kind of like just kind of brushed over. And you could tell that there's something deeper in there within this story, but I can also see how it's just overlooked.
Yes. And there's different characters in the film that ask her subtly, are you okay? Is everything okay? And she's giving the impression that she's obviously not okay, right? So the conversation is when you see someone who's struggling and they tell you they're fine, do you just leave the conversation there, or are there tools we can use to help that person really get the help that they need?
Right. And so going back to the yes, I'm okay, and acting like it's okay, and knowing that there's something not okay, how do even though it isn't addressed in the film from a clinical perspective, right? Meaning in the way she's being dealt with, but the extreme to where I don't want to give too much away, I'm trying to be careful. To where she made a certain decision, and how even with that still wasn't being dealt with in a considerate manner, right? That's really what it boils down
No.
to, is consideration.
Absolutely. It's So I think that as artists, when we choose to tell a story, then life has a way of giving us more information, right? After I did this film, I spoke to two people who told me that they were struggling and had suicidal thoughts and depression. And in that conversation, the first thing I said was, well, why didn't you ask for help? And it's like, it's not that simple,
Hmm.
right? So it's a conversation of having grace, compassion, but also if you have a family member who's struggling, or if you yourself, you're struggling, it's really a conversation of what are the tools we can give someone who's struggling with mental health, right? In the film, we see the extreme
Right.
of, and the husband could be replaced. The husband is he could be replaced as a parent, as a sibling, as a boss. His toxicity, it could be even our relationship with ourselves. So really what we need to do is have a conversation of how do we have grace even in the subtle conversations when someone is struggling with situations in their life.
And also the grace with self, right? Because you're saying you keep regarding and referencing tools, and the question becomes is like, well, first you have to come to terms with the fact that it's really up to you as the individual to decide what you're going to do versus like just sitting in it. And we're not experts, but there are alternative modalities in which one can at least begin to recognize that, yeah, there's help needed in this particular area.
Absolutely. And in the film, while I was working with the director, Isabela Verdron, she made it very clear. The story originally, she does end up, taking her life. But when we were working on the story, she made the point to show this character make another decision, right?
Right.
So let's show an inspiring story. Let's show a woman who actually decides to start seeking the help that she needs, right? And that's usually the hardest step for someone who's struggling. It's seeking the help. So we do show that to inspire people that you can seek the help and do it in a way that is best for you. I think that's the most important thing in this mental health conversation, especially as Latinos. We don't see ourselves in these spaces where we're even having this conversation, right? So the fact that we can now talk about it is so important because in sharing our experiences, we're able to help one another.
I agree. And so you opened up mentioning that this was all shot in Dominican Republic. Just talk a little
Yeah.
bit about what that process was like. That must have been nice, a little work vacay type of situation.
wish I wish there was a little vacay in there, but it's beautiful. I was born and raised in New York, but my parents are Dominican. I grew up going to the Dominican Republic my whole life. It's been a dream to work in my country. So I partnered with Sandy Hernandez, who's also the executive producer, and she was kind of the bridge with the crew over there. We had an amazing DP. We have an amazing director who's also based in the Dominican Republic. Then the actors also flew out. Marta Gonzalez, Christopher Rivas flew out, Sandy. So it was a beautiful experience to see the caliber of work we now have in the Dominican Republic, because you think it's in DR, so the quality is not that great. No, we got the best of the best with everything. So it was so much fun, so much fun.
Yeah, y la casa, and the house that you shot out of.
I know that house. That house. I wish we could have stayed there a few nights.
And so, I do want to close with this before we go. I want to mention that in my interpretation of experiencing it, what I really appreciated was the dynamic of seeing a lifestyle that one would think is the life to lead, right? And you reference social media, and where it's like people are putting out this lifestyle of like rich, famous, glamorous, and so forth. But yet, then there's the quality of life. And so that is really what the story is about, right? Because it's like
I
you could
love
be living this lifestyle, but the quality of life is truly what determines
that.
your happiness.
Yes, I love that you use those words, the quality of life, right? This is to shine a light on someone who is supposed to have it all. And it looks like she has it all if you see her from the outside, which again, when we were going through the pandemic, that was a lot of the conversation. Like, why would she do that? There was a model who life and everyone was looking at her. She had everything, and it's much deeper than that. We need to have deeper conversations. We need to ask people, how are you really feeling? We need to listen. We need to have compassion and grace. And let's leave the word drama out of the conversation. Some people, they express themselves in certain ways, and we should leave the name calling and just really listen so we can make a change.
Well, I appreciate you bringing that into the forefront through your film. Your artivism is recognized. We acknowledge you. Congratulations on all the accolades that you've already received thus far, because I'm sure there's going to be more. It's really all about the purposeful work, right? So, and art is purposeful just on its own, but when it comes to the mental health awareness, I'm over here rooting really, really hard. So we really appreciate you bringing it to our viewers. So you guys, once again, Candy Santana, star and executive producer of Metamorphosis. And if you're interested in more information on Anima Azul Productions, you can go to animaazulproductions.com. That is where you can learn more about the short film Metamorphosis. All right, stay tuned, because Bobby C's Weekly Sports Roundup is coming up next.